Hi everyone, Gareth here from WeCycle. We've got a really exciting bike in the shop at the moment, just come in, and I wanted to share it with you, talk about some of the details around the bike and give you a little insight into the more specific and finer points of it. It's the Orbea Orca M20i team, which has the Ultegra Di2 12-speed group set on it. There's some really nice features about the Orca which really makes it stand out as a bike. Firstly, let's go over the brand. So Orbea are a Spanish brand from the Basque country, they're cooperative. There's a really nice story behind the company. They've been making bikes for years and they're huge in Spain, and ever so slowly and surely they're starting to come out as one of the really big players in the cycling industry. And there's no surprise because their bikes are brilliant. The finish is always excellent, and the attention to detail and the geometry and the way things are put together is second to none. Now, they use a mixture of letters and numbers to define their ranges. M moniker is always a carbon frame bike, H would be an aluminium one. So this being the Orca, that's their race bike frame. The Orca M carbon frame 20, the 20 bit goes 30, 20, 10. The smaller the number, the higher the specification on the bike. Now, with road bikes, they have some SRAM options and some Shimano. So for the electronic group sets with SRAM, it will have an E, and the electronic group sets with Shimano will have an I. So this M20i team bike, and that talks about the things that are on this and how it's kitted out. Now, they have two different frame sets within the Orca range. This is separate from the Orca Aero, which, as the name suggests, is an aerodynamic frame. The Orca is their all-round bike. And last year or the year before, what Orbea decided to do was step away from having an endurance frame and a race frame, and thought, actually, what we can do is simplify things. We can bring the best of both of those into one bike with some adjustments. So they have two frame sets, the OMX and the OMR. The OMX is their higher grade carbon. It has different properties to it. It is a more racy frame, same geometry, but the way everything's laid up and the way things are done means it's a stiffer, it's a firmer ride. Great if all-out speed is what you're after, but it is less comfortable. So with the OMR frame set, it's more rounded, there's more compliance in it. It uses rounder tubing to allow for a little bit more smoothness and efficiency in the ride. It's 5% better at absorbing vibrations than the previous iteration. It's 10% better at absorbing vibrations and road chatter than the equivalent OMX frame. Now, that's not to be sniffed at. That really makes for a much more comfortable ride. Weight-wise, it's comparatively light. It's 1,030 grams for the OMR frame set. The race frame set, the OMX, is lighter. It's 800 and something grams, which is a super light bike by any standards. Rounded frame, rounded tubing. They've gone for a round seat post, and this attention to detail makes a difference. So round seat post and a narrow one, 27.2. That allows for a lot more compliance at the saddle, so the contact point, but without bring the need for compliance and movement down here. So it's still really stiff around the chain stays where you're pushing the power from the bottom bracket into that back wheel, but a bit more compliant up here. As is de rigueur nowadays, and standard drop seat stays to add a little bit more compliance and comfort. There's not many bikes out there that don't do that now on road frames. By doing away with the endurance frame and race frame geometry, the Orbea recognised that you couldn't all fit on one bike without any sort of more significant modifications. And so at the entry end of the range, the bikes come as standard with a raised handlebar. Now, at the team edition bike, it's flat bar as standard, but with the option of a riser bar when you're building the bike up. The little bit extra height means you can sit a little bit more upright, a little bit further back, just to give you a little bit more comfort. Another thing to think about when we're looking at comfort, and again, this is fairly fashionable now with the way bike frames are going, the tyre clearance on the Orcas is significant. Now remember, this is a road bike, this is a fast road bike, but it's got clearance for tyres up to 35 C. That's massive, and 5 years ago that would have been unheard of on a bike like this. This bike comes with Fulcrum Racing 600 dB wheel set and has a standard through axle. The frame has speed dropout capabilities. The axle that comes with it doesn't accommodate that, but if you get a speed release axle, it will work with this bike. And that's something we would consider doing as well. These wheels, although they're all right, they're not special. And that's the one thing this bike's lacking. So what we would do in the shop is we would add £500 onto the cost of the bike, and we'd stick a set of Zip 303Ss on this, and that would really top it off nicely. Hidden in the frame here, hidden in plain sight, is the seat post clamp. It works brilliantly, it's flush with the frame, it's never awkward, we never lose any bits inside down the frame when you take the seat out. You don't have this additional collar hanging around, it just works really, really well and looks great. One thing that Orbea have been masters of recently is making sure the cockpit looks as clutter-free and as smooth as possible. Easier to do with the Ultegra Di2 group set because there's no cables coming from the shifters, but there is the brake hoses, and on every bike, regardless of where the level is, the cables are integrated really neatly, just below the stem under a little cover plate and then down through the frame. Rattle-free, they've managed to make it a really quiet way of integrating it, but it just looks so sleek. It's such a neat bike, beautifully put together. For those that haven't already watched our video on the Ultegra Di2 12 speed, let me give you a quick overview. The cassette could be 11 to 30 or 11 to 34, that's what it's capable of taking. This one is 11 to 30. The extra sprocket is in the middle, so the sprockets on this go 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 21, 24, 27, 30, I think. I'll check that on the screen for you. Wireless from the shifters, and they speak directly to the rear derailleur. The rear derailleur and the front derailleur take their power from a battery in the seat post. So there is cables from both the front and rear derailleur. Just one neat little cable giving the power. This means you've only got one battery to worry about. To charge the bike, you do it neatly through a charging socket on the back of the rear derailleur. And the rear derailleur also has the Bluetooth brains in it, which will talk to the shifters, but also talk to your Garmin. No more need with the new iteration of Di2 for a D-Fly adapter. That's all built into the rear derailleur. The brakes with this new Shimano setup are brilliant. They've borrowed the servo wave technology from mountain bikes and the gravel group sets. And what this means is that you get initial contact earlier, but then you get a more modulated feel as you're going through the brakes. That means feathering is far easier, but over the same amount of travel. Feels fantastic, works brilliantly. And if you were concerned about brake rub in the previous version of Ultegra, then that should be lessened too, because the space between the pads has been widened by an extra 10%. Hopefully you found this video interesting. If there's anything I've missed or something else you'd like to know, put it in the comments and I'll try and get back to you. If you've enjoyed this video, there's plenty more coming where this came from, so subscribe and you'll get to see it straight away as soon as it's released. Thanks for watching.